The New Zealand All Blacks is a force to be reckoned with, and it's true for all the right reasons. In the world of rugby, the New Zealand rugby team, known as the All Blacks, has attained this status by becoming a dominant force in the sport over decades. Despite the fact that New Zealand is a small, remote island nation with an estimated population of only 5 million, it is still capable of being a continuously feared superpower in sports, and the All Blacks is just an epitome of that. Like, did you know that they were undefeated in over 77% of their international matches over the last 100 years? You probably didn't know that, right? But there's so much more to know about this extraordinary rugby team, and we're only getting started here. This is the story of drive, discipline, structure, invention, and a willingness to go above and beyond to reach and maintain success. The history of All Blacks. Let us begin by setting the scene so you may understand why the All Blacks' accomplishment is so astounding. The sport of rugby union was introduced to the remote Island in 1870 by Charles Monroe, who found the sport while studying in England and took it back to his hometown with no idea what he would create. The country embraced the game, and the first rugby board was established only a few years later. Finally, in 1903, the country played its first test match against local rivals Australia in Sydney. Just 1 year later, the squad embarked on an incredible 34-game tour of Europe and North America, losing only one game, the first of the trip against Wales. This early triumph was an indicator of caution for the rest of the rugby world, because here was this tiny country from the other side of the planet, ready to take on them at their own game on their own land. It was a great story that made the nation proud every time the team went home. The game quickly became a national craze, with every young boy dreaming of playing for the All Blacks. There wasn't much else to celebrate about in New Zealand's sports scene at the time. They struggled to field strong enough teams in most sports due to the country's massive numerical disadvantage. With the exception of cricket, New Zealand struggled in practically every major sport in which it competed, but rugby was a way out. They realized early on that with the correct structures in place and a commitment to the sport, they could build something truly remarkable. Administrators, coaches, and other stakeholders collaborated to create a new game that may help New Zealand make its claim on the global stage. There was an opportunity to use their distinct genetic features, ball abilities, and passion for the game to create dynamics that would drive them to the pinnacle of the sport. The rise. And this just proved when the 1956 series against South Africa arrived, which was one of the most awaited and fiercely contested in rugby history. The Springboks had been the dominating team in worldwide rugby, and the All Blacks had yet to win a series against them. The 1956 tour of New Zealand by the Springboks provided the All Blacks with a chance to change that narrative. The series was intensely competitive, with both sides displaying remarkable skill and tenacity. The All Blacks eventually triumphed, winning the series 3-1. This triumph was significant not only because it stopped South Africa's domination, but also because it brought New Zealand together in a manner that few previous events had. Players like Don Clark and Kevin Skinner became national heroes, and the series victory cemented rugby's role in New Zealand's cultural identity. Apart from this win, the first Rugby World Cup in 1987 was another watershed moment for the sport, and the All Blacks were the side to beat. Hosted by New Zealand and Australia, the competition brought together the world's greatest teams. The All Blacks, headed by Captain David Kirk and coached by Sir Brian Lacour, were determined to make an impact. Throughout the tournament, the All Blacks displayed a combination of power, precision, and flair. They defeated Italy, Fiji, Argentina, and Scotland to reach the semi-finals, where they outperformed Wales. In the final, the All Blacks defeated France 29-9. The victory was widely applauded in New Zealand, establishing the All Blacks as the first Rugby World Cup champions.
We played Italy out here in the first game, and we're asking JK for a bit of help because no one really knew who they were or how good they were.
I think one of the best things about that try was that it really kicked off the World Cup and said, wow, this is great. This is going to be a great tournament.
By 1995, when the professional era began, New Zealand had established itself as a rugby powerhouse. Over the years that followed, they would construct a dynasty unlike any we'd ever seen in the sport, instilling dread in the competition and winning everything there was to win. The rest, as they say, is history, the fall and revival. Despite their achievements, the All Blacks have experienced times of decline and criticism. The late 1990s and early 2000s were challenging, with inconsistent performances and disappointing World Cup results. The 1999 and 2003 World Cups were especially difficult, with the All Blacks failing to go beyond the semi-finals.
The All Blacks, there goes the siren. England only have to run it out, and they've done that. Referee checks the watch. Game is over. England get the victory. Absolute delight for England as Martin Johnson wanders over to talk to Ruben Thorne. They had a frustrating night with the refereeing, but you've got to hand it to England. One stage they only had 13 on the park. The All Blacks couldn't score. They did later on, but England have the victory, 15-13.
Drama personified. Moments of ecstasy for the English team at the victory. A great compliment. They've won it, done it, away from home here in the home patch of the All Black team. An All Black team which dominated the game in so many of the departments when you look at the statistics, but it's the scoreboard that counts at the end.
However, these failures encouraged reflection and innovation. The team revamped their coaching strategies, player development programs, and leadership hierarchies. Key figures like Coach Graham Henry, who took over in 2004, played significant roles in the team's resurgence. Aside from that, successive victories in 2011 and 2015, the latter of which saw the All Blacks win their first World Cup abroad with arguably the best rugby squad in history, also eased the burden a bit. The All Blacks, who have 100 test matches. Richie McCaw, a former flanker and all-time great, was the first to accomplish the record, collecting his 100th cap at the 2011 Rugby World Cup, which New Zealand won. In 2012, the famous flanker won his 100th test against the Springboks at Ellis Park. McCaw broke new ground by reaching that milestone, an astounding feat that few expected to be repeated. McCaw continued to break previous records, captaining his team 110 times, the last of which came in the 2015 Rugby World Cup final against Australia, which New Zealand won, becoming McCaw the first captain to win 2 World Cups and the first to defend the championship. In his final game, he got his 148th test cap and led his team to a 97th victory as captain. That game also saw the retirement of fellow All Black stalwarts hooker Kevin Mialamu, Dan Carter, and Ma Nonu. While Mialamu had already won his 100th test, Carter, 99, and Nonu, 91, came just short of the mark. The majority of the renowned 100 test victory members came from the 2015 vintage. Lock Sam Whitelock, number 8 Kieran Reid, prop Tony Woodcock, back Buden Barrett, and scrum half Aaron Smith have all reached this milestone. The secret to great game. Now you might be wondering, what's the secret behind All Blacks' successive wins, and what actually makes them the best of all the rugby teams? Well, the number one reason is strategic multi-layered competitions. To dominate a sport for an extended length of time, you must have a strong foundation of fresh players emerging on a regular basis. If one wants their success to sustain, they cannot rely on once-in-a-generation superstars. Instead, they must have the correct institutions in place at the grassroots level that continuously produce the types of players who can become world-class. This is something New Zealand excels at. The executives realized that if they wanted to build a world-class team, they needed to invest in every level of the game, creating a conveyor belt of talent that began in primary school and guided them through the process until they were ready to compete on a global scale. These kinds of development trajectories do not happen by chance. They necessitate a significant amount of purposeful work and resource investment to develop a system that not only identifies bright young athletes but also provides them with the tools they need to reach their full potential. Another significant factor contributing to the All Blacks' success is their focus and specialization in rugby. As previously stated, there are few other sports that compete with rugby in the country. Therefore, they've become somewhat of a specialist as a result. Every boy in school plays rugby. It symbolizes national pride. It's something that unites everyone. This is an essential component of the culture. This limited focus allows the great majority of sporting resources to be directed toward a single goal, thus maximizing efficiency. It is the only way a country with less than 5 million people can compete on a global scale. There are no additional distractions, and the effort is not divided among a variety of tasks. Compare this to other countries where different sports compete for the same gifted young people, and one can see why the New Zealand rugby setup has been so successful. And as they continue to adapt and change in the face of new obstacles, they remain a symbol of national pride and a beacon of success in rugby. But we'd like to hear from you. What are your thoughts on this outstanding rugby team? Let us know with your thoughts in the comments below. If you liked watching this video, then hit the like button and subscribe to our channel for more amazing sport content. See you next time.